Welcome everyone, and thanks for bearing with me. I know I'm pretty much the last session except for the keynote between this and the after party, so thanks for being here. So my name is Jaap, and as mentioned, it's not a very typical name around here. So I'm indeed Dutch, and I'm a developer advocate at Harness. And as you might have seen, I'm not Dave, so sorry to disappoint there. I do a fair bit of coding, also for Harness, also personally, but I'd still rate my skill level when it comes to coding at approximately here. Fun thing about this one was it started out as a meme, and I think they ended up releasing it on April 1st and actually selling it as well. So I should have picked it up. I didn't pick it up, and I still regret it to this day. Biggest regret in my life. I've lived a cozy life. So about feature flags, that's why you're here. And let's get a bit of an idea. How many people are currently already using feature flags? Cool, right? Most people. That's great. So setting the stakes of what it is and where it comes from. Companies like Facebook, LinkedIn, they started using feature flags to be able to selectively release features, either to smaller cohorts of users or to specific geographical locations without having to redeploy different versions of their application. And going into what the traditional way of deployment is, you could see this as a way of feature flagging as well. We have all the developers, we have all the features, and you can see that the developer on the left, well, you can't really see it, but this developer is always the slowest one and the master procrastinator of the bunch. And the release is only going to be possible when Mr. Master Procrastinator over there finally delivered on his code. And at that moment, all the features get released. But the downside of it is the timing is going to be tied to the last feature that was completed, and that is going to be your release. So what it leads to is it gets determined by the slowest developer or the biggest feature. And with proper project planning, you could of course work around this problem by making sure that most resources are assigned to what is going to be the biggest feature, but you don't always know beforehand. And it leads to slower development of features. You can't test multiple implementations at once. So a good example, well, a terrible example of this is Windows Vista. That was being developed in the traditional sense, where they mapped out what was going to be the features of the future, and then they were about 2-3 years down the line, they found out that no one actually wanted it, but they already wasted 3 years of development time, and there was no way back. So we ended up with what was probably the worst operating system in the world. The only upside is that they didn't release Clippy with it, so that's points for Microsoft there. And so there's no way to release individual features, and it says there's no way. Well, there are ways. You can of course have multiple deployments, and I've seen this done in the past where very big or very important customers can request a vendor to either release a specific feature only to them before it's production ready or before it's going to be generally available. But what you get is you get very complicated upgrade paths as well, because how are you going to patch when there's security patches and you have all these different deployments? So you're going to lose developer resources to making sure that all of that is compatible. And that's one of the things you can avoid by not having different deployments and using feature flags. And you can also roll back features. So you deploy something isn't the way it's supposed to be, and you can just toggle the feature off, on, be done with it. So the new way here is We have our toggles, we have our feature flags, and the moment we want to deploy, we can just enable the feature either for all our users or for just a small subset. You can also tie it to different geographic locations or any kind of data you want to tie to. And once the product is done, we can release it to the final customer, or if it's an internal product, your final colleague. So now that we talked about how it works, let's get into some of the use cases. So I've already alluded to this. It helps to increase deployment velocity because your deployments are no longer tied to all features being present, and it frees up development time to maintain multiple different deployments. You can control your releases. So what I've seen is that releases keep on getting pushed back because an unforeseen problem. And there's one thing that's always certain with software development is there's going to be unforeseen problems. And what is supposed to be a 1 month development effort turns out to be a 6 month development effort. And if you disconnect your releases from your deployments, you can still release new versions and just tag on the feature at the moment it's ready. You can also change the operational control, and what it means is the developers are no longer the people that decide, that deploy the new feature into production. It becomes possible to hand this over to the product teams, or specifically if there's going to be a fix for a very specific subset and it doesn't appear for all users, you can offload it to help desk staff. So when you have a specific power use that run into limitations that are known but not currently patched for the general population, you could put that behind the feature flag and manage that in such a way. So you have a lot more flexibility in how you release features. And yeah, that ties into the customer access as well. But talk is cheap and slides are boring, so do we want to do some demos so we can actually see? There we go. Demo time. So I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to show how we can deploy a feature, a new feature flag, what it looks like in the GUI, and after that I'll show what it can look like in production and how it responds. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. So for the people in the back, is this legible? Good. Sweet. So we can see we already have a feature flag created here. It's Boolean. Should be there. And if we want to toggle it, we can turn it off, turn it on, and it works pretty straightforward. Let's create a new one. So as you can see, you can choose between Boolean or a multivariate. So we're going to go for Boolean. And this feature flag is going to take that bill. So we have true or false. We can change the behavior. So if the feature flag is called enabled, then that true would map to true. If it's disabled, then you can reverse that to get the flexibility. Go to save and close. And you can tie it to specific environments, but we're not going to get it into that one over here. And we can go back to our feature flags, and you can now see that we are no longer going to take blue pill, and we'll take a red pill. And this one isn't tied to any software product. So what we're going to do now is switch over to a demo environment and show how they actually work without any smoke error. So here we have the harness canary. By the way, afterwards, if you do like stickers on your laptop, as you can see, I keep my laptop clean. If you do want some stickers for your laptops, for your kids, or just for yourself, I have them as well. So let's take a look at this this canary. It's a cool bow tie over here. We go into our demo here. You can see we have a number of options here. And the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to change this bow tie. Matthew, which one are we going to go for?
Sunglasses.
Sunglasses? Definitely. So save the changes. Switch over, and you see it's already here. I'll put them side by side just to show responsiveness here. This one here. It's more responsive than my laptop is when resizing, so that's already something. So let's put some shoes on the canary. And there we go, bow tie is gone. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to turn it into the French captain. There we go, with a baguette, ready to go. And the nice thing about it is, because we're in a GUI now, but we're developers, so obviously we have some SDKs. This is a lightning talk, so I'm not going to go into how we're going to set up the SDK, but I can show how we can do this ourselves as well. So in this case, we're going to, so we just turn it into the French Captain Canary. Then what I'll do is I'll change it back to false. There we go. America. Look like, obviously not Captain America, because this. Change it to 2 again. And for folks paying attention, you can see that I had developer mode open. And what we're going to do is we're just going to copy paste the request. We can choose all the languages that we want. I'll go for the easiest one here, so we'll go for Perl. And if you're paying attention, you can take the token as well, but it's a temporary one. So we turn it to French here. Wasn't paying attention. Was it French? Let's turn it out. Here we go. I copy pasted the wrong one, so we're going to leave this for what it is because I don't want to spend it. Definitely worked 5 minutes ago. So, well, I mean 25 minutes ago. But it is a very cool tool to quickly automate anything. Just open up developer mode, either on Chrome, Firefox, or any Chromium browser. Copy paste the correct query. And then you don't have to bother with any SDKs. Just keep in mind that you have temporary tokens. That's you have to make sure to keep it to time. There we go. So of course, with feature flags, we can deploy everything to production. That is my main takeaway. Please don't let this be my main takeaway. So what we want to do is what I mentioned before, and the biggest advantage here is going to be the faster feedback loop that you create. Because if you have a small feature that can just be released before a major new version of your product, you can already release it, you can already get feedback. And what it enables you to do is, if you get feedback a week after you developed something, it's still fresh, you don't have to get back into the project, so you can enable your developers to be more productive because it's more recent what they've worked on. Because one of the worst things that I can do is, to myself, is go back into code I wrote 2 years ago. First thing I think is, who wrote this? And then I find out it was me, and then I'm always in for the worst time. So with that out of the way, if you have any questions, now is your time. If you have questions later, Twitter is probably the way. If you have questions not related to this one, I'll be in the hallway afterwards. So, any questions? Yes.
Obviously, you said you're not going into the technical details, but is this something, like, say, from a code-based perspective, whenever you activate these feature flags, is it, like, how do you actually put that into the software? Is it sort of, conditionals in your code, or is it switching branches, or how does it?
So you get a piece of boilerplate code, and you can paste it into your project. It depends on what kind of language you're using, what it looks like. Oh, sorry for the recording. How can you get feature flags enabled in your code? So depending on which language you're using, you get a block of code. You can choose to either ping back every 10 seconds by default to the server to see if there's anything new, or it can work on event changed, which is what we were using in this example, because we didn't have to do any refreshes and we didn't have to wait for 10 seconds. And then it looks at whatever feature flag is changed, and you have a glorified if-else statement in your code that chooses whether that feature is enabled. Any other questions? Cool. Well then, enjoy the closing keynote, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.